Stocks on Wall Street extending Thursday's gains Friday afternoon following that September jobs report. But our next guest, Andy Kapyrin of Region Atlantic, says the probability of a recession has, in his words, meaningfully increased. Let's find out why. Welcome, Andy. So jobs grew modestly in September, 135,000. The unemployment rate dropped to a near 50-year low. Wage growth sort of unchanged. Wall Street liked it. Why don't you?
So I think Wall Street liked it because it could have been so much worse, and it came in at just a weak enough level that it makes the Fed a little bit more likely to cut rates, which Wall Street likes, but not so bad that it signals an immediate disaster. The reason I think it's bad news is think about the economy as a tug of war. There's 10 or so factors pulling the economy in the recovery direction, 10 or so pulling in the recessionary direction. There are three players pulling very hard towards recession today, and those are manufacturing numbers. Those are things like the ISM. The service sector has weakened considerably, and now the job numbers are pretty weak. And the problem with jobs is that they can infect consumer confidence, which is 70% of the economy. So if this trend continues, if lower wage growth becomes a new trend and it continues to trend downward, that can meaningfully impact markets and the economy.
Why do you think that will be like the other developed economies, in your words in your report, in the coming months?
So I call it an act of catching down. Usually you think about things catching up with the leading players. What happened in the developed markets over the past few years is a case of central banks pulling out all the stops, creating negative interest rates, but fiscal policy really lagging, and the economic results being a little bit lackluster. Most of the world hasn't entered a recession, but growth has been so tepid that it's hard for economies to get traction. I think we're going to see more of that in the U.S. and less of U.S.-like performance abroad. The reasons for it have to do with just current fiscal reality, current monetary reality. The Fed is the only thing trying to promote growth today, trying to avoid a recession. Fiscal policy has not adjusted apart from the 2017 tax cuts.
Even though the consumer's been the strong point of our economy, keeping this economy alive, you're worried about consumer confidence. We get those numbers next week, by the way.
So I am worried about consumer confidence, and that's because consumer confidence is really two numbers. There's really two things that you really ought to keep track of. One is current situation. So how do consumers feel about their current state of affairs, their state in life? Most consumers are pretty upbeat about the current state of affairs because, well, recent job numbers aside, wages are finally growing pretty quickly. Unemployment is very low. If you're looking for a job, you can usually find a good form of employment. But when you ask consumers about their expectations for the future, that has gotten materially worse. And when expectations for the future fall, that is when you start to see that infect the broader economy, because expectations drive your decision to buy a house, buy a car, invest in home improvement. Those things are variable, and those things drive quarter-to-quarter economic growth.
All right, Andy, but despite your concerns about consumer and consumer confidence, one of the stocks you recommend at this point is Target, which is a consumer stock. Why so?
So a couple of reasons why. First of all, Target is a place where you go to buy things on the cheap. It is the kind of place where you will continue to shop even if economic times get a little bit tougher. In particular, both Walmart and Target have done a very good job of growing their grocery offering, and that is one reason why they've performed better than the broader retail sector. There's another reason I like Target, and it is that people have really thrown out the baby with the bathwater in the retail industry. There are certain retailers that can and will struggle and will continue to struggle as a result of underinvesting in their online presence, not having the right product mix, just being in a challenging environment. Target's not one of them. Target has done a very good job of improving its outreach to online shoppers, improving the experience for online shoppers, becoming more of a multi-channel place where you can go there physically, you can shop online, and you can do some mix of both, where you buy the product online, pick it up in store, or buy something online and then drop it back off.
But Andy, I was looking at the stock. It's up 63% so far this year. You still think there's more room to run?
I believe there is. I believe part of the 63% gain is complete undervaluation entering the year. But part of it is surprise on the growth side. Why can Walmart and Target surprise on the growth side? It's because a lot of their peers are going out of business and significantly slashing their presence. So who do they compete with? They compete with Sears, obviously. They compete with Kmart. Those are the obvious choices. They used to compete with Toys R Us. So about this time last year, Toys R Us entered liquidation. It no longer exists. There are no Toys R Us stores where you can shop. But guess what? Kids still want toys.
And we're coming into the holiday shopping season
Exactly.
yet again, so maybe a repeat. All right, Andy, thanks for joining us with your thoughts and analysis. Appreciate it. Our thanks to Andy Kapyrin of Region Atlantic. I'm Fred Katayama. This is Reuters. Have a wonderful weekend.